The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. The disciples of John approached Jesus and said, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast much, but your disciples do not fast?" Jesus answered them, "Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast." My brothers and sisters, the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
From time to time, people will ask me, why does the church get involved in issues like racism and immigration and poverty and health care and abortion and just so many things like that? That's not religious, that's politics. And of course, sometimes it's probably been easy for people of faith to make that dichotomy between one and the other. But I think we clearly see today the prophet Isaiah going back 2,500 years ago, making very clear that anything that's about concern for others, especially the hurting people, the most vulnerable people, is religious to do something about. Religious isn't only ritual and mass and the sacraments. Again, that's the heart of our faith. But what he's saying here is, you heard it before, is that that ritual can be empty. That ritual can lack its essence if it's not lived out in daily life. So we see a challenging statement 2,500 years ago that we still need to hear today. And Isaiah is very critical of the folks, of all their rituals, because their rituals aren't touching their lives and making a difference in the way they treat others. And what he's basically saying, if the rituals aren't doing that, then the folks within those rituals aren't really in touch with God, aren't really open to his way. Because if they were, they'd be doing for others, especially, as Jesus once said, who were considered the least among us. So go back to hear it. God speaking to them and to us. Do you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? This rather is the fasting that I wish, releasing those bound unjustly, untying the thongs of the yoke, setting free the oppressed, breaking every yoke, sharing your bread with the hungry, sheltering the oppressed and the homeless, clothing the naked when you see them, and not turning your back on your own. Then your light will shine and break forth like the dawn, and your wounds shall be quickly healed. So today, we need to recognize our daily life and how we respond and how we vote and how we make choices about what we care about and where we make a difference are deeply religious matters, as religious as coming to Mass. So if we come to Mass, but we don't care about those things that God talked about here, then we're missing something absolutely essential to our faith. Most people would say, oh, you shouldn't miss Mass. And there's a wisdom in that, in worshiping the Lord. Just as much a wisdom and a faith in how we treat one another or fail to treat one another. Again, you can see how Jesus himself was rooted in the prophetic tradition when he said, whatsoever you do for the least of my brothers and sisters, you do for me. And when you neglect them, you neglect me. Let's just take a moment and see what the Lord is speaking to our hearts, and maybe that we convey to other people. We can have differences of opinion in how these issues are raised and resolved from a political point of view, but we can have differences about the value of what we do and doing something. Take that moment. God bless you.